My pen hasn't run out of ink yet.
It hasn't.
Still going.
Is that the same one?
Yep. Take a lot of that pen. Reminds me of some fun times.
There you go. Is it 6:30? 6:29 is what I
Ready?
I've got 6:29. Go ahead and get Jeff's is not on. Jeff's is not on.
So did you have an election today? Was there anybody have?
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, it's 6:30. Would everyone please stand for a pledge of allegiance and remain standing for a short invocation? Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear God, as we gather this evening, this council asks for strength, courage, and wisdom. We thank you for this wonderful town that we live in and the privilege that it is to serve in it. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. We're going to call to order the Tuesday, November 7th meeting of the Mooresville Town Council. Gentlemen have had a chance to read the minutes from our previous meeting. I need a motion to either amend or approve the minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes as written.
Motion been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Greg and Jeff. I'm sorry.
That's
Abstain.
okay.
Yeah. Greg, Jeff, 401. Ain't abstaining. Under unfinished business, gentlemen, remember we had requests for qualifications and in an interview process with two companies on our HVAC. Trane was one of them. We had scheduled meetings with them. They have an outstanding crew that they wanted to make sure that they had the right people here at the right time. So here they are, and and I don't know who was it. You sent me the email. What do you want us to present? I want you to present it just like you've never seen us before. I think that's what my email said.
Thank you very much for having us. Again, I'm Tim Stam. I'm with Trane. And next slide. Some of you can see it, some of you can't, but you have copies. So I'll introduce the team, and then I'll go a little bit over the RFQ and the kind of the timeline, kind of how we got here. And then Greg will speak to BOT and financing. And let's go ahead and go to the next slide. So Frank is our engineer. He's been in the industry for about 30 years. If it's happened in HVAC, he's done it. So he'll be developing the scopes of work and the pricing of those scopes. Greg Martz has been in the industry for 20 years and is kind of the BOT guru in the state of Indiana. He's done more than anybody else. Brian is going to speak to us about our construction process and how that would occur. And Senator Alting, it's 30 years as senator almost in the state of Indiana. He's a consultant for us in the northern part of the state. He's going to be available to discuss some of the projects we've done up north that have included ARPA funds. And he's kind of here not in lieu of Dr. Roberson. Dr. Roberson had to be at a school board meeting tonight, and that was the right priority. You're hiring a new superintendent in Mooresville, and it was an executive session. He needed to be there, so he would be here otherwise. But Dr. Roberson's a 77-year resident of Mooresville. His dad actually was the council president years ago. His sister was the clerk and treasurer for many years. So he's got deep roots in the community. would not steer you wrong. And he's been with Trane, I think, around 15 years. So a very knowledgeable guy. So next slide. Okay, so who is Trane in Indiana commercially? So we employ about 600 Hoosiers currently. So we have facilities in Indianapolis. One you've probably driven by in Plainfield is another one. Fishers, Fort Wayne, South Bend, and Evansville. So we're kind of all over the state. We have manufacturing plants in Noblesville, Indiana, and Rushville, Indiana. And if you were to select Trane equipment, there's a good chance that some of that equipment has been manufactured right here in Indiana. So we think that's meaningful. So another thing, we have over 60 certified service technicians in the state of Indiana. So that's meaningful because you can run after the project. So who is Trane? Diane, I think you have Trane equipment at home, if I recall. So you've probably seen Trane equipment. It's about 39,000 employees around the country. We have 1,300 engineers, and we have 10 manufacturing facilities in the United States. So a large portion of our equipment is made in the United States. So a little timeline. We started this process about in 2021. We did a walkthrough at that time and discovered that there was, I don't think it's any mystery, there's some HVAC issues. You have older equipment that needs to be replaced. Some of it might be fine, doesn't need to be replaced, but there's need for sure. So we started that process back in 21, 22. In March, Dr. Roberson and I met with some of the council members to kind of re-engage, and it kind of stalled before and kind of figure out what was going on with the process. The equipment wasn't getting any younger. So we wanted to get together and see what was going on. We met with Dave, and we did another walkthrough, and lo and behold, it didn't correct itself. So it's you have aging equipment that needs to be replaced. So that became apparent that you have to do something. So the first step in that process is to have a procurement method, and I think that's why it stalled before. So we met with Taft Law, we met with Jewel Lee, Greg and I, to discuss procurement methods in general, and the one that we landed on as the best fit for Mooresville was a build, operate, transfer. So, and the reason that was a good fit is because of its flexibility, and we don't know what the scopes are, and it's very flexible and will allow us to develop those scopes with that procurement model in place. So in April, Taft drafted an RFQ, and an RFQ, I've given you a red folder. In the left pocket is the RFQ that is kind of the legal document that says these are the rules of the game, and this is the way we go about it. In the right pocket is our response to that RFQ. So as per the RFQ response, we submitted prior to May 2nd to go for to be selected for that project potentially. So, and in July we had a committee got together to discuss the different options, and here we are now. So that's kind of been the process. So one thing that it's kind of a competitive situation now. Why Trane? Why would Trane make sense here? Well, we're an HVAC company, and that makes all the sense in the world, and that matters. So we have 100 years experience in HVAC and tens of thousands of employees that live and breathe HVAC and controls and keeping people comfortable. So that experience is meaningful and could impact Mooresville in a very positive way. And Frank is going to look at this in literally 100 different ways to heat and cool an area and control it. We turn wrenches. So we design, engineer, and manufacture equipment, but we also install and service all brands of equipment. So it's rare that a project would have just one brand of manufacturer in it. So we have a service capability and installation capability to manage any of those type of systems. So training and technology is another big thing that we get involved with. So I don't have my phone with us, but Dave Moore that now has to run around from building to building to figure out what's going on. Well, with modern controls, you can, on on your phone, see what's going on with that piece of equipment and diagnose things a lot better. And we're going to train him to be able to manage this equipment in himself. But another thing of why train, I think that service capacity is a huge differentiator. The ability to come in and actually fix things and turn wrenches is important. So not just getting the job, but being there when the job's done to help service activities. And then, as you can imagine, with any big company, we have a slew of attorneys and accountants that are very familiar with grant writing and IRA and other rebates and utility rebates. That we have an advocate, and I failed to mention her, Melissa Banks, is our team member that handles that. She couldn't be here tonight. But we have a whole team that we look at those things. So if there is a grant, if there is an IRA rebate, if there is a utility rebate, we will discover it. And I think those are big differentiators that we bring to the table. So I'm going to turn it over to Greg to discuss BOT and some of the projects he's done.
Thanks, Tim. Good evening, Council. I have a just one slide tonight, very brief presentation, just 4 basic points I wanted to make for my portion of it. One is that my role on the team is essentially just to work through the procurement or the financing pieces that may come up on this project. We've done a lot of BOT projects. In fact, every project I've done since 2008 has been solicited underneath this law. From what I can tell is you guys have handled this process perfectly. I think that the results of that are shown tonight, that you have 2 qualified firms that have responded. And from my perspective, I always look at this procurement process as really being about 3 things. One is picking someone based on qualifications, which again is part of what the process that you're doing here tonight. 2 is what Tim had talked about earlier, which is when you don't understand your scope, this process gives you the opportunity to pick that team, work through your scope, and determine that scope before you're entering into any sort of financing or anything else, contracts and so forth. And the final one is one that we take very seriously, which is just the guarantee. And probably the number one reason you would want this is that it should result in a guaranteed price. And again, we do take that very seriously. We've done about 150 projects underneath this BOT statute, and all of them have had a guaranteed budget that we've been able to meet. Tim had said that you were thinking about potentially using ARPA as a funding source. You can imagine that over the last 2 years, the majority, almost every project that we've done has had ARPA involved. So we're very comfortable with that. To the extent that you would want to talk about that tonight, we'd be more than happy. The main thing I did want to get across, though, is that what I'm not here tonight to do is to tell you how to finance it or so forth. That needs to be your legal counsel. I see that Mel is here tonight. Taft, we've worked with together many times, and your financial advisor. They should really be the ones telling you how to finance it. What you should be expecting from us and from the team you select is options. And so we're more than happy to do that. We're more than happy to provide those options. But in the end, the way that we would handle that is giving those options to Taft, to your financial advisor, and then letting them determine what of those options are the best way to do that. So I just wanted to make it very clear that we'd always respect that relationship, but that you should anticipate from us that we would be able to bring you options on how to finance as part of this scoping period. So I'll leave it there. To the extent that you have more questions about any of that, I'll be here to answer those questions. Thank you very much.
All right. Good evening. Again, I'm Frank Didelot, Energy and Development Engineer. Seems like 100 years of experience, but not quite. I'm going to talk briefly just about our approach to scope development and pricing, and then again, questions at the end. But we've already talked a little bit about rebates. We have a federal team, Melissa Banks, and there's so many different options, and I couldn't begin to explain all of the different methodologies on how to get money. I know that they know how to do it and will do whatever they can to advocate for you to help get money. Utility rebates, that's a local level. That's what we do. We do it at every project. Usually it's very prescriptive, very simple, and of course it does depend on the scope. We do a competitive bidding process, and what I mean by that is we hire our installation. We hire mechanical, we hire electrical, we hire test and balance in this case, which is a little bit of a specialty, but we think it will be needed. But I'll show a slide in a second. We will go solicit competitive bids for those, hopefully with contractors you tell us to use or suggest we use. And if not, we'll bring our partners that we know are qualified. We'll bring it to the table, let you know what the prices are, what we believe their qualifications are, and we'll make a recommendation, but the town of Mooresville will make that decision on who they want us to use. Omnia contract pricing, that's how we will price anything train related. Omnia is a cooperative bidding process that was done nationally. The train has been selected for. It's competitively done, so it's already vetted out. That's the pricing we use. There are tons of companies that do this, Home Depot, Dell Computers, Toro, Lawn and Garden, all kinds of different ones who have gone through this process. Train just happens to be one that now you can go direct to Train within the statutes and purchase from Train through the Omnia process. And then really what I wanted to talk about was how I approach an engineered solution. We will always start with the occupants and find out what's going on in your building, what's going on with your systems. Are you hot, cold? What times of year you're hot or cold? Do you have leaks? We heard at our last interview, leaks in the boiler system here. All of the things that the end user sees, that's where we start. That's our approach, and then we work back from there. Okay, what's the solution? What's the most cost-effective up front? What's the most cost-effective from a life cycle? What's the most cost-effective from an energy perspective? And then, what's easiest to use? So if you already got me. So, for example, what we found across the street at the fire department, it certainly appears you've got an air balance issue there. You have this room over here not getting any airflow in, I don't remember exactly the summer when this one's getting all the airflow, and then when the season changes it switches over, and there's no real control of that. So my goal is not just replace the equipment, but figure out what's going on and solve that. At the fire station out on 67 and 144, there's some kind of load matching issue, whether it's oversized equipment or whether it's a need to divert some of that load to a different area that might need more conditioned air. All those things get evaluated. In this building, we found the water leaks, and it was suggested, could we put gas furnaces in? Very viable solution. That all gets vetted out and listed as an option when we come to you for final scope and approval of final scope. The one thing I will say, and Tim did allude to this, you're going to make a pretty big investment here. I will personally recommend that you don't make this investment unless you put a control system on top of it. Something that you can control, monitor, schedule, service. You can service it through technology, or you can call Train when you have a warranty or service issue, and the first thing we'll do is get on the computer and figure out what's going on before we roll a truck, because sometimes it might just be an adjustment. In today's world, it's just the technology is there, and it just makes all the sense in the world, and really will pay for itself in a short time.
Can I interrupt you for just a second? I made a note when he covered that. I wanted him to explain the fact that, you said Dave could control it, but also we call and we say we got a problem. Your technicians can get on there
Absolutely.
and do it. Because that may save a service call or something like that. I did want him or you to hit on that.
Yeah,
because how important that actually is.
Yeah, so our entire service process, when you call Train, the first thing they do is look for, do we have connectivity? And if we do, we go look at that to see what's going on. At minimum, we know what to tell the technician. It looks like you've got a valve sticking or something, so you need to go check that. But a lot of times, we avoid rolling a truck because we can solve something very quickly, or even we can call and say, can you guys go beat something with a hammer and knock it loose or something. So the scope, it's going to be collaborative. We're going to work with you. It'll be as flexible as you need us to be. And then again, Trane is a single source accountable here. When you have a problem, no matter what it is, whether it's our equipment or somebody else's or the controls or pipes or whatever, you're calling Trane. This, real briefly, this was just an example of what I talked about earlier about competitive bidding. We'll show you something like this. We'll show you the 3 bids. We'll show you the prices. We may have a write-up on qualifications depending on who it is, but this is what we sit down and discuss, and you guys tell us then, okay, I'd like you to use this company. Because even if their price isn't necessarily lower, you prefer them because of their work ethic or qualifications or whatever. I just wanted to show you that we would be bringing that as an open book option to you.
And with DOT, we're not limited to the lowest bid, correct?
You absolutely
Okay.
are not.
I want to make sure.
So this one, just briefly, I wanted to go back. There's been some talk about we're sold on trying to use Trane equipment only, and frankly, we kind of are. We believe Trane equipment's best. We're indoctrinated with that, but we think Trane equipment is top of the line, and we think through Omnia we can buy Trane equipment at less cost than anywhere else. That being said, we will not look at any piece of equipment without looking to see if there are better options with other vendors. We have service people that work with every other vendor. They know HVAC, they know how to service, so we are not married to Trane. We're not trying to sell it because we just want Trane. We were trying to sell it because we think it's going to end up being the better value. So I think I've kind of talked through it all, but the one thing I wanted to bring up, this is an HVAC project, but we would love to look at energy issues as we go through the whole discovery process. You know, easy stuff like lighting. I know you've probably done most of your lights with LED, but any energy company is going to want to look at lighting. Tom actually brought one up at the committee meeting. The wastewater treatment plant has discharge, and could we reuse that water into a geothermal type system? Well, turns out that's something that is being done and is a very viable solution. So we'd want to look at things like that. I believe you got a solar opportunity, and the reason I believe that is the Inflation Reduction Act is giving at least 30% back in tax credit for solar systems. And you've got some room at the wastewater treatment plant. I've played around with an array over there just in case, but that could help pay for a lot of the energy bills at the wastewater treatment plant. Maybe other places, I haven't seen everything, but the Inflation Reduction Act really makes that an interesting measure. And then the other one that I wanted to bring up, and we're playing with this at the town of Whitestown, but you have at Pioneer Park, you've got the pools, and I don't know if you have a splash pad, I can't remember, but and I don't know if you heat those, but there's a very simple, cost-effective way to heat pools with solar thermal panels that you just probably put on the side of your shelter house, and the only real cost, other than they're plastic panels, but they work very effectively and they're done all over the world. The only real cost is the cost to pump it through. So it might be an extra pump. And now you could potentially extend the season by heating the water, or at least not get complaints that the water's too cold. So those kind of things, we'd love to look at them. We'll go with whatever the town tells us to. If the town says, no, right now, just look at the HVAC, then those get tabled. But we just wanted to point that out, that we could go there. So Brian's going to step up and talk a little bit, because this project would be in an occupied area. Brian has a ton of experience doing work in occupied areas. His last one was in Senator Alting's area, Lafayette Schools. He knows how to get around people and work without disrupting them, so Brian's going to talk through that a little bit.
Thank you, Frank. Good evening. I am Brian Berger. I'm the contracting lead for Indiana. And I've been with Train about 25 years. And in that time, I've done about every job that we have. I started off as a service helper, so I understand our service business. Went through and became a technician. I worked in our parts department. I worked as a project manager in our contracting department. And now that's the department that I lead. So what I want to talk to you a little bit about is some of the challenges that we face with doing work in any occupied buildings. New construction is a breeze, right? But you are in offices during normal business hours. We're in fire stations, potentially police stations, all these different buildings where the primary work has to continue, and it is the number one priority. The project is not the number one priority. It's public health, it's public safety, it's making sure everybody can come in and do their jobs every day. So what we do is we meet with you at a customer kickoff. We walk through each building, what those buildings look like, what security looks like, what time of day schedules look like as far as when people are there, when people aren't there. And we will develop a plan with you to come into those spaces, and I will not say there will not be any interruption. That would be insane to say. But as Frank alluded to, at Lafayette School Corporation, we went in to an occupied school, a very large school at their high school, and we renovated every single academic classroom in that building during the school year. And we did that through an approach of dividing and conquering, getting work done where we could. The students were moved to temporary classrooms inside the building. They had the space to do that. We've also had buildings where we didn't have the space to do that. And so what we do is we work nights sometimes we work weekends. But sometimes you have spaces that are utilized 24/7. You have fire stations, right? I did a project at Jasper County at a jail. There are no off days at a jail. Those buildings are fully occupied 100% of the time. We did a complete HVAC and controls renovation. We re-insulated an existing building while it was occupied with inmates. We did a complete solar field tie-in, brought all the power in, tied it in with inmates in the building, maintained security and maintained safety, number one, and number two, and we got the job done. We got it done on time and on budget. So we will work with you. We'll also continue to have progress meetings as we go through the project. For me as a project manager, that was one of my favorite things was the communication. We'll provide you emails either weekly or bi-weekly. Here's how things are going. We'll provide you pictures. Here's what's happening. If there are issues, we will bring them to you. We will include our contractors on these emails and in these meetings. We are transparent. As Frank mentioned with the pricing, we're transparent with the pricing. We will be absolutely transparent once we're on site and mobilized, because we want you to have the best quality product. We want you to see it as it's going in. We'll bring your maintenance crews in as they're working so that they can go, oh, that's where that piece of equipment is. That's great to know. Here's how I'm going to get to it. Do you have a concern about us putting it there? Nope, it looks good. Or yes, can we move it to the left a foot, to the right a foot? Absolutely. In Train, safety is a huge priority. All of our contractors are vetted. All of our personnel within Train is vetted, goes through annual safety training. We are 100% on certain PPE for jobs. We live it and we breathe it. The absolute worst thing that could ever happen on any project is safety getting overlooked. Whether it's the safety of your folks or our folks, we want everybody to go home the same way that they came to work that day. And so that becomes a very high priority. When it comes to staging and logistics, we have a very hands-off approach from your side. We come in, we will work with you. If we can store equipment on site, we will absolutely do that. If we have to come up with alternative solutions, we're absolutely okay with that. You will not have to handle packages. You will not have to accept deliveries. You will not have to sign for things. You will not have, it is all going to be handled. As Frank said, it's one source It'll be through one project manager. You'll have one point of contact throughout the entire project. As we go through the commissioning of a new system, we have, as was mentioned by Frank and Tim, we have factory certified technicians, of which I formerly was one. They get sent to the factories to be trained. They come back from the factories. They share their knowledge. Everybody goes to different trainings and everybody shares across the board. What wasn't mentioned by these guys that I think really differentiates us is not our 60 employees that are here in Indiana. It's not the hundreds of years of service that they have in the HVAC field. It is literally the fact that I can call a number and I can get technical support at the factory. I can talk to somebody on the factory floor. I can talk to the engineer that designed that piece of equipment, and I can get help. Nobody else can offer that on Trane equipment. That is exclusive to us. So we have access to the library of knowledge that no one else has access to. We will commission your product. If you have a control system, which again, I would highly recommend, we will come out and not only commission that once or twice or 3 times, it will be continuous commissioning as we go through the process. We'll be looking for problems before the system's even finished. And we will be identifying those areas so that when it comes time to do a final checkout, there's not a lot to do. We want to make sure that it's right from day one. We will also train your folks. We will do multiple trainings, as well as we will provide you opportunities to attend trainings after the fact. So if the maintenance staff, you hire somebody new, they can come and sit in a factory authorized class taught by somebody who works for Trane, who has expertise in whatever area they are talking about. And finally, closeout documents. We have a package that we will deliver to you. We're very flexible on that. If you guys require extra copies, absolutely. You require something that we don't normally provide, absolutely. We want to make sure that we meet your expectations so that at the end of the day, when the project is closed, you're comfortable with it. I will reiterate what Frank said. When the project's over, Trane's not done. We want to build a partnership with the town, with all of our customers. That is why so many of our customers do phases 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because they understand that Trane's in it for the long haul. We want to be there to help you operate your buildings safely, efficiently, and comfortably. So I think I'm turning it back over to Tim.
So there's one more layer, we call it the customer experience, to see how things are going. So that would probably be, Tom, either with Tim Bennett or Dave Moore, one of those guys that I'd be with throughout the project to kind of gauge how we're doing as we go. The worst thing that could happen is we made a mistake at hour 1 and we're at hour 23. So I come in, and Dr. Roberson would be with me on these meetings. We do a very formal survey, it's 3 or 4 questions, but if the scores aren't good, heads roll. So at about 25% complete, we say, Tim, Dave, how are we doing? Have we missed anything? If not, okay. If we have, let's fix it before it's a real problem. We do that at about 50% completion. And then we do that again at we call substantial completion. Everything's actually running, but not done. That's correct. And then in the 11th hour of the warranty, before it goes out of warranty, I personally do a walkthrough. I don't know if Dr. Roberson would join me on that. But I want to go and see every piece of that project that we touched and we did. And before it goes out of warranty, let's make sure it's working the way it should. So we've got many options and times to catch issues before they're problems. So anyway, that's that process. And Dr. Roberson would absolutely be with me for 3 of those meetings anyway. So in closing, so I do think Trane would do an outstanding job for you guys on this project. Not only, there's no change orders on agreed upon scopes, so there's no surprises. We get competitive bids on all the skilled trades. On Trane equipment, you don't have that double markup issue. Again, we look at everybody and get you the best value. Ultimately, you make the decision. The town makes the decision what's best for them. you're going to have increased reliability no matter what you do. I think things have just about died on you. And then your energy efficiencies. Frank is a master of squeezing every bit of energy savings out of a project that we can possibly happen. It could possibly occur. So I'd like to close with Senator Alting. He's been with us for 15 years. He's been 30 years, almost 30 years as senator in the state of Indiana. He's got the trust of his constituents in his areas and lots of projects. If you want to talk about your experience.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the council. Moving a little slow, it's election day, so I've been working for some people pretty early this morning, rest of the day. I just want to speak from kind of my experience with Trane. I'm a former city councilman at large for the city of Lafayette. It was my favorite job of all before I got involved in the state as being a senator. But if I was in your seat, I'd just ask a few questions, basically facts. And, you know, I started with Trane actually 16 years ago, and I'll never forget when we did a walkthrough in my first building. It was Oakland Elementary School, and with the engineer, and we came out, and I was looking at his final report, and I asked him, trying to learn this type of business, I noticed that the equipment you're using in the classrooms are not Trane. Is there a particular reason for it? And his answer was because of the demographics of the building, the age of the building, the ventilation of the building, this is a better product to use in each classroom. Interesting. Second question I asked, I noticed you don't have Trane controls put down. Well, they have Siemens controls, but they're working fine. They're working properly. So there's no need to change them out. So what that told me that I made the right decision for going to work with Trane, because they truly were in it for the customers, and not to pad a bill, but in it for them. And as I keep reminding them at every meeting I attend, which is many, these are taxpayers' dollars. We understand that. We get that. Same way as school corporations. We sharpen the pencil very, very fine and understand the seat that you're in. The second thing I want to mention is the change orders, and it's been mentioned briefly, but it's huge. I've also been there long enough to see that we've got beat on a couple of bills because we perhaps was a little higher. Then later they call us back in because of the change orders, and it ended up being almost double of what ours was. So we are people of our word. It is a big plus for you knowing that that number that they put in front of you, you can count on that's going to be your number. And that will help you sleep at night as a councilman, I assume. And third but not last, and I think is one of the most important, if I'm in your position or a school superintendent, when we do school corporations, and that is, it's one-stop shopping. So you're going to have some hiccups along the way, no matter who you choose for this project. The difference on us is that you're not going to get in some kind of a lawsuit or some kind of finger pointed, well, you got to go get the electrician. That's the electrician's problem. Or you got to go find a plumber. It's a plumber's problem. Plumber says, no, it's Trane's problem, et cetera, et cetera. One-stop shopping. We are the ones that, if there is a burp, we serve it. We solve it. We get it done. And not only will you have the phone number of Frank and Tim and others that are hands-on in this project, but I'm also will include you in my long list of phone numbers that I will give to you in case there's a problem to make sure that it gets done. So having said that, we appreciate the opportunity to be here. And I just want to say on a personal note, I appreciate like the Indiana State Senate, of you opening up in prayer. I appreciate that very much to see local government do that, and appreciate you serving your community and wish you very, very well. Thank you.
Tim, if you would, I know that if you'd come back on up here. I know that you and I did the chicken or the egg thing. You know, what form of financing are you going to use? We don't know what's the scope of the work. We don't know. Kind of put this into perspective. We do the scope of work. We understand that we have a ordinance before us this evening to start the BOT process to adopt that state Indiana code in case we choose to do that. But we don't know the scope of the work. We don't know the scope of the work because we don't know how much it's going to cost. It is a true chicken or egg thing.
It's not unique. A lot of the procurement methods are like that. And Taft, that was their consideration that BOT was the best fit for that, for this type of project when you don't know the scopes. I think if we go through this process, if we're selected and we develop all these scopes, and we decide not to do it, there's no cost. We're totally at risk. So if we go and do the scoping, and we're literally at risk. So you're out nothing. If the prices seem ridiculous to you, you don't ever have to do a project.
I told you we had $13, remember? I told you we had $13.
We'll take $12.50.
The one thing that was mentioned this evening that we hadn't talked about was looking at other projects, the geothermal or the solar for the heating of the pool. Is that things that we have to include into the scope, or is that things that you'll look at and include as you come back to us? And is that still at risk also?
That would be at risk as well. So what we would do is develop 5 ways to do the same thing. Frank will, and then price those. So you'll have a laundry list of maybe 20 things, and 4 of those 20 things are the same thing. So you'll get a list of different options of ways to do things, and then you select the ones that make sense. And then that's how
But the other thing there is, Tom, if you told us we can't do that right now, then we say maybe that's a phase 2 or phase 3 or something like that. That starts with those interviews and saying, how far do you want us to go? If you want us to develop prices there, yes, we'll do that, and maybe it's included, but it's all really what the council dictates to us.
And that was just something that we didn't discuss during the committee, is doing anything outside of the HVAC.
Yeah, we would look at like lighting and those things are, because there's a lot of energy savings. We'd look at solar, no cost. Those would be laundry list of items you could do. It's like you're building a house. You want these countertops, you want granite countertops. There'll be options, and you would select what makes sense for your community.
Are there any questions?
I've got 2. One, with the warranty period, you talked about training our people. What if they work on the equipment after training with you and mess it up? Is it still under warranty, or do we not even work on it during that period?
Yeah, I can speak to that. So what we would do is we certainly if they get in over their head, we can help you out with that. What we would ask is, primarily if you're way in over your head, give us a call. We'll come out and help you out with that. I think any manufacturer would say this. We're primarily warranting defects in craftsmanship and failures of parts. Along with the equipment, though, we can actually offer extended warranties on both parts and labor to get you through that warranty process. And then after the warranty process, during the warranty process, you won't have to touch it. We'll take care of it. After the warranty process, you can certainly use us. You can use your own folks to do that. But during the warranty, we would like to be the ones that service that, just so that we know our factory trained technicians have taken care of that as to the best of their ability, and that way there's not any questions during warranty.
How long is the warranty?
Our standard warranty is 1 year. That can be extended, certainly, especially on equipment. On the actual units, the warranties are very, very reasonable for additional purchase for either labor. We all know the expensive refrigerant. If you've ever had your air conditioner worked on in the last 10 years, refrigerants have gone through the roof price-wise. On equipment, we offer refrigerant loss warranties. So if something happens and you get a leak and it blows the refrigerant out 10 years down the road, we have a warranty that can cover that. So we can certainly help you through that process. For a lot of customers, that makes a lot of sense. It's like buying an extended warranty on your car. It usually pays off, except the difference is it's with Train. It's not with a third party. It's directly with Train.
My last question is, when I came on the council, I noticed that town-wide, a lot of our equipment was old. And so I pushed for a capital improvement plan so we could start budgeting for large purchases. And it sounds like to me, except for our police station that was recently remodeled, a lot of our equipment here is old. We're not going to have ARPA in the future. So would you help the town budget for the future as a part of these proposals? Like, is that something you put together for the town?
We'd be like a 5-year plan, something?
Yeah, or 10.
Yeah, we'd absolutely be happy to do that. We do that every day. But we were here from the start, from 21, 22 timeframe, looking at things. We're still here. We're very excited by the opportunity to do work with your community. We'd love to do this project for you. I have no doubt we'd do an outstanding job, and you'd be very satisfied with the results. So.
Further questions?
Thanks again.
Thank you very much. I want to compliment you guys. This is tough when you have two qualified companies, and at no point in time, the wonderful thing about it was both of you complimented the competitor. It made us feel like no matter what decision we make, we're in good hands, and I appreciate that very much. And you didn't laugh too much at my stupid questions. There you go. Inside, you were tearing me up. Gentlemen, we've had a chance to hear from both companies. My recommendation, unless you guys feel otherwise, is we take 2 weeks until our next meeting, and you'll have questions. Both companies have representatives that are willing to speak to us individually. Both of them have offered that. If you think of a question, we can go from there. Is that acceptable?
So next meeting,
Yes.
we'll decide.
We'll make
Okay.
a decision. I need a motion to move this to our next meeting.
So moved.
Motion been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
We will make a decision at our next meeting. Expect some calls because I think we all are overwhelmed a little bit. Again, the main thing is both of the companies, and Train was the first one that we met with. They're doing everything at risk up to a point. They're helping us. Both companies are there. I felt at ease with both of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jeff, Josh, 5-0.
Yeah, you can go out that way. Yes, sir. Thank you for your time.
Our next item on the agenda is Resolution 29.
Take care of it.
Gentlemen, this was in the packet. What this does is this puts us in line to be able to use the BOT. I think in the state of Indiana, the BOT was first used, if I'm not mistaken, on the Hoosier Dome when they built it. It is the build, operate, and transfer. We know exactly what we're up against before the project ever starts. There are no change orders. It is an option that has been used since then, but over the past few years has really picked up because it eliminates all of the change orders and the times when people come in with lower bids, and then by the time they're done, just like Train pointed out, by the time it's over with the change orders, it's 3 times what it was originally bid at. This does not lock us into using it exclusively, but it does allow us the opportunity to use it. Are there any questions for legal counsel on Resolution 29? Motion, please.
Motion to approve Resolution 29, 2023.
Motion been made, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor? Aye. Jeff, Greg, 5-0. Next item is Information Technology, RFI.
Thank you. Back in August, we started looking at different companies, put out RFIs, requests for information to different companies on to IT support for the town. Phil kind of spearheaded that, and how many companies did you take here? 7. We talked to 7 different companies, and they were given a time frame to have a bid in or RFI in. We kind of went off the last RFI. I found one in a file down in my office, so we decided what all the department heads and all the departments needed as far as IT support, and that's basically what we asked for from IT companies. So we had 2 companies put in RFIs, and Phil's going to fill you on them also.
Yep. So out of the 7, we had 3 that ultimately removed themselves from the running. Ultimately, it was up to their decision, business decision on their part. We had 2 companies out of the 7 did submit formal proposals with RFI standards. We did have another company that, actually 2, that did miss the deadlines due to circumstances and reasons. But out of the 2 companies, we did allow them to come in and basically share with us their proposals during this RFI process. We were in full communication. We ultimately had a kickoff meeting with both of these companies, with majority actually, and what circumstances and things and procedures and policies should we have in place. So with those 2, we had Sondi Solutions and C2 Consulting come in and formally present with our review committee, which was representatives from each department head, each department in town, minus of wastewater treatment plant and our public works department, due to basically scheduling and staff. Their resources were needed on their day-to-day operations. But we did come up with a scoring sheet which has been shared with each member of the council of our average score, and also the components within the RFI standards, which was identified within the RFI of what we would be looking at for a total weight and scoring. So the overall proposal and price not being the primary focus, but overall, what is the proposal? That is, did they follow the standards? Did it meet the page requirements? Did they do the formal introduction? Did they share resources? And then the next one would be the contractor's experience level, our their key personnel and qualifications, the project understanding and approach, and then also the DBE, MBE, and then also WEB, which is minority-owned base, women-owned base, or black majority-owned base companies. Those are qualifications that, in my experience, have been with majority of the RFIs or RFPs submitted. And then also we identified 5 categories of bonus points. That would be our CJIS certified staff members, authorized practices for remote in information technology services, demonstrating the portal for IT ticketing system, so if we have an issue, how that is demonstrated, prior work with municipalities, and then also work with public safety departments. So at this time, this is our overview. The council is fully aware and has been presented everything that this review committee has seen in place. We do have one representative from each company in attendance this evening. So if there's any direct questions the council may have that Chief Butner or myself cannot directly answer, they are here for assistance in questioning, but we wanted to open the floor for the council to ask any general questions at this time.
Questions? Jeffrey?
You know, I guess I'm lost in this process, and I've called Tom and talked to him. Request for information is just that, information, correct? What we're wanting as a town for the IT side.
So RFI is a different approach, and I'm sure legal can help us with some of the legal definitions and explanation, but an RFI allows us to share what it is, work with the company or firm or services, and try to identify the best results. Sometimes it results in formal proposals that ends with the dollar amount that is something that the council can take action on. At this time, it is our review committee's suggestion that an RFP moving forward would ultimately just be restarting the entire process again.
Well, that's what it should be in a fair process.
This was a fair process, sir.
In certain eyes, it was, Phil. In certain eyes, it was.
Okay.
Okay.
The RFI was released. 7 companies had the
Nobody on this
opportunity.
council knew what an RFI was. We've never done an RFI to my knowledge, and nobody else knew.
I had the document from the last time when you guys signed the contract, and that's how it was titled.
Okay, well, I don't recall that.
I
We've always had an open bid, what we want, this is what we want for a scope, and then everybody had a fair opportunity.
I didn't know exactly how to do that, so I just reflected back to what was done before, so.
So we did identify the scope and what we were expecting from the firms and communication, but ultimately, our staff, all the way across the department heads, we're not IT professionals.
Well, neither
So-
were we, and we didn't even know what was going on as a council.
Well, Mr. Sweeney was in on the meetings.
I called Tom this week, and he didn't know. He's the president.
I did not join in on this. We knew that they were doing the RFI. We knew that they were looking at it. They came to us and asked us if they could look at it. And we told them, yes, let's look at it.
Sure.
The-
And it was my understanding, along with these other council members, that we were going to explore the options, what we want and need as a town, because our technology's been a mess, our own fault, nobody else's, and we put it out for bid. And other companies haven't been able to do that. Others have backed out because of that.
By their own choice.
Local
sir.
companies. Well, I'd back out too, if it's going to be ran like this.
The individual in question that you're bringing up, sir.
No, there's multiple individuals. There's 2 different companies in this town that I know of. So not just one. And I fight for all of them, Phil.
Well, we started this in August, and we mentioned it.
There were council meetings.
And so, I mean, we were just trying to do it fair, but I don't know how else to go about it. We have an IT that's broke, and we have a system that's out of date, and we need to have
We're
somebody.
running home edition, right?
We need to have somebody that's capable of coming in with 24-hour help service, ticket tracking, and a knowledgeable staff to take care of the town, and we were just doing the best that we knew how.
I understand that, and I thought we were gonna take that information, what we wanted, hey, this is what we're looking for. We're looking for this service, this service, this service, put it out for scope of work, what we want done, and accept bids from it and decide.
Well, that's what we did, that's with the RFI, because that's what they did last time,
I wasn't familiar with an RFI and
when,
all these acronyms.
when Shane was the president and they signed off on the contract, that's how they did it. I got that from, I think it was Danny's or somebody's file that was down there, so.
Okay. Yeah.
Mel, since there's confusion and now the public's thoroughly confused, and can you explain how this process works in RFI? Like what's the steps to get to an ultimately a service provider or whatever?
Yeah, I briefly looked at the information that, that you had to work with, and what you're really talking about here is with the request for proposal, generally you have a pretty good idea what you want. And so then you're asking people, based upon what the town needs and wants, which they already know, then what's your proposal to resolve this or to fix this, or for a request for information is generally an area where you feel less confident that you really need somebody to come in and not so much tell you how to fix something, but tell you what you really need. And, I didn't have anything to do with this process, obviously.
Right.
As a general rule, that's where the difference is, the difference between having a pretty good idea of what you need and what you want to buy versus having somebody really come in and say, more information that you're acquiring so that you feel more comfortable in what it is you're then pursuing. And
So is this ultimately turned into a request for proposal, or are the approvals based off of this information?
I was going to say it's been done both ways, and I think at that point, when you go through the materials, if the council feeling real comfortable that these companies are giving you good advice and telling you what you need, then a lot of them will go straight then to a bid process or a contract and skip the going through.
Okay.
And both companies have expressed interest to meet with the council members and do a formal presentation if the council would choose to do so. And I've personally reached out to council members to gain the interest level of that. It's about 50-50 at this point, but that's where we're here tonight. So staff has spent time investing RFI. Thank you for doing clarification with that. That's ultimately where the staff were moving into this process. We didn't know. And ultimately during the process, we had found certain things that are definitely eye-opening that need to be addressed immediately. May even be sooner before something like this is put in place. But unfortunately, we're not professionals, so there are certain steps that we're just not familiar with as staff to go through this, and we need somebody to be a partner with us to make sure that we're protected, we're secured, and we can come in and do our day-to-day job.
And Phil reached out to Jewel during this whole thing, and Phil put a ton of work into this. He really did. And figuring that was the right thing to do, talk to the legal counsel, so.
I came at this, the spearhead of the project. Parks had separated itself completely from the town's IT services because we were not receiving the services needed. If that's not a clear vision of there's something needs to be done, that the entire department separates because the services aren't being met, I don't know what else is a clearer picture. I've sent
When was
email.
that done, Phil? Do you remember? Do you know when that was done? It's been that way.
It's been several years.
And when I got here, they were already doing that anyway.
And
Yeah, that was-
ultimately,
it's been
everything
that
was
way.
done before I arrived. I ultimately came here just trying to find something that works, figure out the answers to questions, if we have a question, or did we not even think of a question to ask. And ultimately, that's where we are today.
I had assumed the park did that because they have their own board and want to control their systems, but you're saying it's because...
Ultimately, the services weren't being met, and we saw that another company could provide that, and they have to this point. The review committee does have a suggestion moving forward, but I would like to hear from the council of where you would like us to take this.
Well, the way this was printed out, the expression is what you're not up on, you're down on. The last two IT contracts I voted against because I don't quite comprehend how we take and have such a large distance between the pricing. I don't feel like every time when an IT company comes in, and it may be because I'm not familiar with the terms, that they can just talk over our heads and say, here's what you need. Is it apples to apples? And even on the bids, even on the pricing, we have one that is a one-time monthly fee, and then we have this one per seats and discounts and time and materials on some of those. And I guess even looking at our bills from the company that we have today, I'm not exactly sure what's covered and what's not. There's times when we get billed for working on a computer, and there's times that we don't get billed for working on one. And I don't know that this breaks it down any better. There's two different ways that they're priced here. Yes,
I looked at the old and I read the old contract, but the copy that I got almost seemed like there was something missing. It seemed like that there was a lot of special projects, anytime you needed something done as a special project, and it reflects in my billing. You know, these are one-stop shop, everything's inclusive, unless you need something special, like program build or whatever, but upgrading the systems, keeping your systems running, all that is included, and actually has personnel would be in the town 3 days a week in case somebody had a problem. And so, and if our computers go down at the police department at 2 o'clock in the morning, we're in trouble. With these companies, they would have somebody that would take care of that and fix it.
I agree with you, Tom. It's difficult to try to get apples comparison when it comes to IT. It kind of comes down to the firm's approach. And one company lumped together, this is what they put together. This is what their price is. The other is a lump cost per user. That per user can be a little blurred. We have 125 technically licenses in the town, but some of those are copiers, fax machines, and they're not actually a physical person sitting behind a desk typing on the computer. Then you have roughly 81 actual in-house users that would be on the computer resources. So that is what we, when we did kind of an internal dive, when we saw that of how do we compare this with that scale, that's what we used whenever we were reviewing the proposals. We have roughly 81 in-house users, 125 licenses. We chose to use the 81, the actual people that are in there. Some of this, if that company would be selected, there would be definitely clarification into that standard of what is the actual cost per user. And as you've stated, maybe it is the approach where we want a flat rate per month, not per user.
But I think until a new company comes in and sees where we're at, it's just like you get a piece of equipment to work on. You don't know what stage that you got to put your hands on first, kind of see where you're at, and price it from there. Once they figure out get the bugs out, it'll be smooth sailing.
Both companies did identify that along with the managing of the services, and we've had future other conversation of hardware, conversation replacements. They identified that there's going to be hardware replacement costs during this, and it's going to be some growing pains. But ultimately, that hasn't been identified through this process, and ultimately won't until we have the services that we've identified as staff that we need.
So to go back to him saying a request for proposal, do you think that these two requests for information, these two came in and said, this is what I think you need?
No, they said, here's what we have to offer, and we'll work with you, and you tell us, we'll figure out where you're at, and then tell you what you need.
Neither company came in and said, this is the road you're going down.
They can't, I mean, there's no way they could tell us what we need because they don't know our system yet.
They came in and saying, we want to be your partner while we work through this together and find the answers.
And they both work with other police agencies, fire agencies, Parks Department,
municipalities.
So.
And the one that has it broke down by the month. I say I want to know how much that cost me. Do I take it times 82 and 17 and 6?
You mean by the user or by the?
Well, it says user per month.
Yeah. So you have to take that cross times the users.
And then do I also have to include back into that the 17 network devices, the 6 servers, and the 7 firewalls? Are those users at that point in time?
I don't know. not IT professionals, or we would do it ourselves.
It's 17.
I'm looking at the fee schedule from one, from the one that has it by month.
That might be a better question for the representatives that are here.
Are you looking in the as-needed column? Trying to just find where you're...
This is kind of messed up the way it is. I'm looking at this one.
Yeah, so as needed is,
I'm looking at the premium.
yeah, so premium package, we identified the additional labor would be, limited to special projects. That's $290 per user. So we identified that as like to run with a physical person sitting behind the computer, not a fax machine that's sitting on a
And
desk.
is there a representative here from?
Yes, sir.
So the question is that $290, and then when I go to this one here, when I go to this one, it's listing down here that we have 82 end users, 17 network devices, 6 servers, and 7 firewalls. Do we take that 290 times 82, or do we take it, we add all of those units up? Are they gonna service those, the 17, 6, and 7 for free? Or are those considered a user?
Yeah, you want to come up and just introduce yourself for the record?
My name's Chet Cromer. I'm the owner of C2 Consulting. I live out on the other end of the county out near Eminence. So pricing technology is a challenging and moving target, especially with a new opportunity. What you see on the page here where we have some of our per user pricing, that is, honestly, this is what we share with every single client before we walk in and kind of nail down what that pricing looks like. We've had some of these where this does include, it's just, we have 20 people that work here. Pick a number, we do the math each month, and that's all they pay us each month unless they want to do a significant project, put a new network in, move to the cloud, something like that. In other scenarios where they do have complicated networks, such as some of the other small municipalities we work with, we do have to kind of work in something different for some of the networks and some of the different levels of support. One of the county that we serve both their jail and some of their office staff. And so we have to deal with some users need 24/7 support. Others just need 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. So we have to deal with that. So as has been said, I think all of us are looking for a partnership with the town. Where that pricing lands is something that we certainly don't know at this moment in time. These are guides. It's probably going to be somewhere in between one of that top and that bottom level. I don't know where that's going to land, and that's one of the challenges with us. RFPs are terrible for us because we throw ourselves out there and we pitch you a number, and we're not going to be the lowest bidder because somebody else can underbid our 13-person company. We invest hundreds of hours in some of those, and then we just get nope, sorry. Town of Mooresville is important to us, and so that's it's been one that's worth us to pursue. And I don't know what else I can hit on pricing, but it is a challenge, and it is not something that.
Can you define a user to me?
A user in our world is a person.
Okay, so if we have that 29, or on the high end, we have $290 on the high end. And if I'm just wanting to try to put together a budget on how much is this going to cost, do I take it times the 82 users that we have, or do I have to include the fact that there are going to be, again, the 17 network devices, 6 servers, and 7 firewalls? Are those users?
We like to include the networking and infrastructure. If we do a per user price, we like to include that in that number, and we bake it into that number. So there would not be extra fees for that.
So it's 82 times that number.
That is the number we would budget off of.
Okay.
That may not be that 290. It might be 250. It might be 150. It might be $305,000 when we find out what the technology looks like in the town. But if we do a per user pricing, it is designed to be what we call all you can eat. You don't see anything else on the invoice unless there is a project such as we're going to put a new entirely new Wi-Fi system throughout the town and connect all the buildings together, and something totally out of scope for that, the day-to-day support of that technology. We've even seen some of those even included in some of those budgets from time to time, depending on how we do it.
But you're saying that the 290 is not a guaranteed not to exceed?
It can be. It's not yet because we don't know what the town needs. We can come up with a guaranteed not to exceed per user number. We don't have a problem with that at all. We're just too early in the conversation to know that. I mean, we've been given quite a bit of information about the inventory, a couple tours. We know several departments from taking care of some of the other things for the town in the past. But we don't know what we're getting into, just as you certainly don't know what you're getting into with either of us. So if we came up with a number, we certainly could come up with that. We don't jump into those for large extended contracts because we don't want to get into something that we lock in a 3-year or a 5-year agreement and then suddenly we're charging you more than you feel like you're getting the value for. Or on the other side of that, we walk into something and find that there's a lot more to do than we were led to believe or that we were able to ascertain. So, we would probably evaluate that after a year or two, make sure that we're all on the same footing and still in agreement with each other.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else?
Representative from the other company?
Yes, sir.
Is yours a not to exceed price?
No, obviously, I would echo just about everything you said. Indeed. Oh, sorry. Jeff Rader, Director of External Affairs for Sandy Solutions. Sincerely echo so much that an RFP is great if you're going to buy widgets, but you guys don't want to buy widgets. You want to talk about the aspirations of what can the town be and how do you better serve constituents and how do you better serve your employees and empower them. And that's what we're designed to do, is work alongside you to advise, steal ideas from our other municipalities to say, hey, this is what XYZ found to be successful. And then work with your clerk treasurer, and the leadership to say, okay, what can we accomplish now? Where are the budgets available? And understanding that IT can't be the only line item expenditure. But sometimes there are moments in time to take advantage of those. And so, hey, this is a cool idea we could see. We could save money here in your long-term operations, 4 hours a day of somebody's time. Well, it's great if you have the resources to do it then. And so it is a constant conversation, and it truly is that partnership of where do we want to go? Let's build out the roadmap for you, and we know there's going to be side steps along that roadmap. And we work to figure out how to solve those in the most capable way possible. So very much, again, agree that saying to an IT company, give us a per dollar per seat and have them committed to it for the longevity of it is really hard. And we'll all price things slightly different. And that's where we valued the conversation of let's come talk about what we're trying to do. Let's make sure there's numbers around it and make sure we understand what we're getting towards. But we're going to have to work through a transition. We're going to have to understand where appropriations are available. What's the 24 budget look like? And we're all going to have to pivot alongside that to make sure that you guys are making critical steps in your investments for cybersecurity and protection. Those need to be identified and addressed. But then what are the nice to haves? And where else can we save dollars along the way? So it's what we've done in about a dozen municipalities around the state now and really enjoy doing it.
Any questions? Thank you very much.
Yep.
Well, we're so used to saying, okay, this is how much it's going to cost and making decisions on that, and we don't have that. How do we get to that point?
Well, from here, and, you should probably work more with Jewel because he has more background on this than I do, but I would continue working with these two companies. I wouldn't select a company yet, and Because at this point, you can talk to both of these and let them get a better feel of what they're dealing with here as far as what you need, what you can afford, and that sort of thing, and then sort it out from there. This is an early step when you're dealing with an area that you really need some pretty technical help on.
Jeff, if we look at these here and we say, okay, these are the things, the committee says, these are the things that we,
Let me say something that might help everybody here a little bit. This is sort of a sorting out process. I mean, I think he said earlier that you had 7 responses to begin with. What this really does for you is you may have had 15, and you can't deal with 15 response. What this does is really gives the town an opportunity to say, and in fact, some of these people have already said basically they're probably not interested, but it really gives you an opportunity on something like this where you need some help to sort through this and narrow it down to where you can really have something that you can work with. You got 2 companies now that, I haven't looked at them. I'm probably not capable of looking at that any better than some of you are at this moment, but this really gives you an opportunity to sort out stuff that you just don't want to spend the time dealing with. Now you've got 2 companies that you can work with, either one or both, so if that helps any.
If you see things on here that you say, this is what we have to have, and I think where Jeff's concerns are, did we ask people to just, the request for information is, these 2 companies put us in line with, this is what we think we need. This is what we think you need. And I think where Jeff's concern is, we were on board and he was on board with, okay, now we have that. Now let's say, okay, these are the things that this company here is providing that we think is a must-have. And did we tell that to the other 5 companies? Did we tell them this is where we think we need to be? Is that what you're saying, Jeff?
Well, that's what it was sold to us as, or to me as. It's a request for information. Come walk our facilities, look at what we have. What do you think we should have to be successful? And then take all that information and put it out for bid is what I thought it was going to be done. And along with other council members. Tom, I talked to you. I mean, that's what we thought was going to happen.
Well, and that's what I didn't know if the information that we have here, how you got from this is, did the 2 companies say, this is what we think, this is what the direction we think you need to go. We want to partner with you, and this is the direction we would like to take you. Or did you say to them after the fact, this is what we think we need? I guess, how did we get to this point?
They came in and gave their presentations. They had a basic presentation. We asked them specifics about things that we had concern about getting improved. Got the responses from them, so.
We expressed our issues. I won't go into details of what we're currently facing right now. We can't. But ultimately, we had a kickoff meeting with both companies that were ultimately, out of the 7, the most engaged during this process. So they did a kickoff. They learned kind of our, it wasn't necessarily a gripe session, but we told them our struggles, our issues that we're facing, things that we think should be put in place. And ultimately it was in agreement during that, going, you're on the right track of what you need to face. Along with using the RFI that we previously put out, we also used Martinsville's as an example. They did theirs a year or 2 back whenever they released. We saw an information of what is, and that's where we landed with the RFI. Is an request for information better, or is a request for proposal better? Request for information came back that IT systems and networks are more responsive to information because they have a little more flexibility of coming in and talking with you, learning what it is, being able to see it, versus having a blind sheet of paper going, well, this is exactly what we want. Well, we don't even know. So whenever we had those meetings, we pitched going, hey, these are the issues. We think X, Y, Z needs to be probably solutions. Thoughts? Both companies basically answered those questions and then said, did you think of this? Well, no. That's during this process. We're learning new things that we didn't even think about, like the server technologies of dual factor authentication. So whenever you log into your computer, you try to access a closed network file. Is there a second layer of security asking, are you John from the parks? No, I'm Susie from the parks. Well, you can't access this file. Those are only in place in one department right now. That's one thing that was directly identified. So during this process, we intook a lot of information during this, and we believe both companies, you throw them at them, they're going to do a world better service than what we currently have.
We ask questions like, tell us your process if at 2 in the morning we have a problem with our computer, how does that work? How does that look? And how do you track that? And it's all documented, and we were satisfied with what they had to say, so.
Part of our selection criteria in the RFI was the troubleshooting guide. So if services are not available and all users and functions of business are completely affected, what's your response time? What does that even look like? Significant defragration of services, meaning a large number of our people, so the entire police department goes down. What's your response on that? Parks goes down. What's the response on that? Right as we're kicking off Memorial Day weekend for the pool start. Like that's kind of the questions that we pitched to them, and both of them answered into the responses of what they're able to offer.
And they brought up facts like they send out test emails to their employees of the companies they have now to see phishing emails to see if they clicked on things that would potentially be bad on their system. And I think that's a good idea. It keeps us from getting a virus and being, held hostage with our system.
Constant training, updates, those kind of things that necessarily we didn't come up with the question, but they said, have you thought about training? Well, training, what does that look like? And then they both companies went into detail of what that looks like for them. So
going into it not knowing much about IT, you come out now knowing a little bit more and you get a comfort level. Just talking to these people, it opens up a whole new world. And that's what you got to do if you're going to partner with somebody on it.
And there's terms and lingo and abbreviations that staff will never be able to keep straight moving forward. I'll be honest.
One more question. So we addressed the issues, but did we address software and?
See, we can't address that until they look at what we have. Our court system's running on something that's super, super old, but the clerk's office is not working on something that old. They're going to need to come in and do an evaluation. It's going to take them a month to just look at the work we have.
They're going to be able to even everything out and know what they're dealing with and be able to take care of it.
Part of this, we talked about services, meaning beyond managing our IT, but like our Microsoft 365. Does Chief have a system and then the town have another one and Parks have another one? Are we just kicking ourselves in the butt and spending more money on that system? These both companies will have the availability to evaluate all of those services contracts that we currently have, just of our subscription-based services, to make sure that we are getting the best price. So there will be opportunities like that through this process of saving costs. Not saying how many we have the opportunity to do, but that's one example. We find that we have 7 servers, but really we're running on infrastructure that could only take 5. Like, I'm just spitballing different things that we could approach. Now, granted, that's probably not going to be the case because we have 7 departments. So we're going to probably face the same server base that we're facing today. But
there are comments from the council.
What was the main difference between the two that you guys seen?
The largest difference,
Was the
would be the on-site personnel. So one company, offered a 3-day or a 5-day option, and that is somebody that is embedded into, the town system. They would have an office here, located in, more likely this building. They would be here 3 to 5 days a week, depending on what, option was selected. During the onboarding process, they would be, and both companies would be hands-on during the onboarding process, the changeover. But the other company stood out that was the ultimate difference was the embedded resources. The other was, that same company had CJIS certified, technicians. Now, granted, CJIS certified, is a fairly simple process to receive, but this company already sees the benefit of having CJIS certified technicians on staff already. Not saying that the other company doesn't, it's just they haven't done it yet. Those would be the two kind of standouts between the two companies for us. And for just clarification, CJIS directly kind of correlates with our police department filing systems. There are federal regulations where you have to have a CJIS certified technician to be able to work on the system. Very closed net systems. So I know it's already been a long meeting, so I don't want to take any more time.
Well, obviously, the price is a little bit, the knee-jerk reaction on the price, you guys knew exactly. I think you had EMTs waiting just in case I fell over.
Well, we did too ourselves when we first received them, so.
In fact, you were brought up in the meeting.
Go figure. We don't have it budgeted to fund this. It's not that we don't have the money, but we don't have it budgeted. We can look at the budget and go from there. But I guess I need to get my head wrapped around this a little bit deeper. Jeff, I know you and I have had conversations about it, but I think they've explained exactly the difference, and Mel did. Maybe we have a conversation with Jewel that exactly what is the difference on the RFI and the RFP, and was this the correct way to go with the information technology? But
I still think it needs to be put out for all businesses to do it. There's a reason we had 7 and only 2 put in. And IT's the way of the world, you know? So there's a problem there in itself.
How do you want to proceed?
I don't know how to proceed now at this point. I think they need to figure out what they want as a committee, because it sounds like they don't even know.
Well, we don't.
And a lot of them don't know about that.
We don't have a committee.
And
We just kind of, the department heads got together. I guess
well, it's a committee.
you could form a committee and do independent research.
I think we called it a committee,
Oh, okay.
group of people.
They just said department head meetings. So that's what.
I had a provider contact me, and it wasn't the one we currently have, and they said, we saw that they're taking these requests, and we're not going to submit because we don't want to work for those people. Meaning us as a town, and that's sad. And I'd like to say one thing about our current provider. He's charging us, this one's more than 7 times per month. This one's more than 5 times per month what he's charging us. And I remember members of this council bad-mouthing him publicly for charging us $50 a month for storage. And it's abusive to people, and that's why they don't want to work for us. So I agree that this is not a way to approve something, as far as it's not apples to apples. Number one, the prices are way different just between these 2 proposals. I think we need to figure out what we want and get bids on it so that we have some kind of way to compare it. Because it just looks, I'm not trying to badmouth your work on this, because I appreciate it. But this looks chaotic to me, a little bit, you know.
Well, those points on there is what we want. We put the point system on there, and this is what we're looking for in a system. And I understand that it's more money, but we're looking for professional.
Well, you made the comment tonight that there are additional fees, and I'm not attacking you. You know better than that. But there was a comment that, you said that there's additional fees in your current billing because of additional projects.
Well, no,
I heard-
it's just, if they just show up, it's an additional fee.
Okay.
Be as
15
simple-
minutes gets billed an hour.
It could be as simple as the email domain not working.
Is it billed $20,000 more a month? Because that's what this is.
Once you look at all the special projects, it's not as much as difference as you're saying. I mean, it's not 5 times as much difference. If you look at the total billing for the town.
That's what I mean. I think we need,
Above the contract.
and I heard the comments made even with this, with additional projects, there'd be additional costs to this. So,
Possibility, depends on
Yeah.
how bad off we are.
We can
I
work.
Say
understand that.
something? You know, I've been on several committees, and it seems like every committee I have been on, nothing goes through. And it's getting very frustrating, because we've asked for these members to be on the committee, but they don't want to be on the committees.
Not a committee.
Was not a committee, but I'm saying we've asked for council members to help us with these things. We go and spend a lot of time and energy on this and brainstorming, and because if we were going to go out and get an RFP, we need to hire a consultant to come in who specializes in IT and identify everything we need. And if you want to be fair, then push that document out to the public for an RFP. Otherwise, we will never hit the target, that everybody's expecting us to hit. But it's very frustrating as somebody that has to spend a lot of time on these projects and they never go anywhere.
Put it out as an RFI, and that's what we got. We got information. It's a first step.
If it pleases
Got
the
to have a
council.
first step.
If it pleases the council, we can share the direct billings with the current provider to give you what we are currently spending with the services that are currently provided. So we want to make sure that you, as educated as we are, and it's difficult to do so while staying in the legal clarity of the law of sunshine law of not having that, but we have opportunities. Both companies have expressed the option to come and speak with the council directly, either on record, or we can work with legal counsel of finding proposed way of doing an executive session so you can hear the both companies. But we, as staff, we're just expressing that we need something different. What we're currently having isn't currently working. So that is what we're primarily trying to voice tonight. I do appreciate your guys' time.
Just one point, if you disagree with me, please. From our seat of the world, an RFP becomes very challenging for anybody to issue because the approach to the environment could be very different. You have 7 servers now. Until we actually come in and can design that roadmap for you, some of that might be cloud hosted and be a better solution for that. Maybe you actually need more servers because the processing's not up to speed on XYZ. If you put out an RFP that says 3 servers, that's what you're going to get in a response on a line item, but that might not be the right solution for you. And I do think this is what you were trying to speak to, is the idea is, like, we have to be able to come in and really understand where you're at and what you're trying to accomplish to design that the right way. And so to take this and turn it and just reissue an RFP, you're going to get a prescriptive solution where, based on what I've heard from the other side here, is you would have somebody come in and just say, well, here's a low number to do X number of desktops. And then they're going to just do that desktop for you, rather than the holistic advisory services and bring you ideas and and help create a different type of way of doing things. So we encourage this because it creates a different conversation about what's possible rather than somebody coming out and just saying support 82 PCs and 6 servers. We wouldn't really actively chase that with a whole lot of interest because it's not creating that aspirational environment of changing what you're doing now to better. So, okay. I just want to make sure that piece was clarified. Like, if this gets reissued as an RFP, I don't know how we would respond. And if it's not that conversation as to like what's bigger, I don't know that we do. Because you can go buy a cheap help desk and get cheap help desk service, and that's not what we're designed to do. Does that help?
That's not my issue. So.
Okay, well, no, there was just conversation about, should it be
Yeah,
an
I
RFP versus an RFI?
I understand that.
Okay.
I understand that.
Just want to make sure I'm helpful.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that.
Us as staff moving forward, we'll do what it takes to please the council. So if that's issuing an RFP, then we will go down that pathway. We've tried as staff to work through this solution and try to provide the information as we could. But we like to seek the council's advice of what you'd like to see for next steps.
Comments from the council? Do we need a 2-week period to figure this out? Obviously, we can't speak 3 of us at a time, but we can speak 2 at a time, try to get on the same page. Probably, like Mel recommended, talk to Jewel individually, figure out where we're at. You can talk to the 2 vendors that you have had conversations with. I personally haven't had any. But let's see where they're at on. Not make a decision. I will, in the meantime, try to figure worst case scenario as far as funding.
Is there any information you would like us to present to the current companies to gain more education, more information to help the council's decision or conversations?
Well, I think they answered the questions, as far as the not to exceed or can it come down? Any other questions that you guys would have for them, for the current?
Do we want to see, like, what we're spending now overall? Because, we have a contract, but then we have all these other fees. So do we need to have that broken down so we can present to them?
I'm sure that can be made available, can it?
Yes, but not broken down. We wouldn't be able to go in and review each individual invoice and categorize.
A monthly fee.
We can get a monthly fee.
I think that's a great idea, because,
Now, that'd be very easy to do. We just spend.
as you're saying, if we're spending 5 times, right now it looks like 5 times, but overall, is it 6, 7, 3, equal? So if you guys can try to get that maybe from Diane and them, that's my suggestion.
We'll lead on the clerk treasurer's discretion of releasing that information to you. So we'll let them release that.
Motion to table.
Just one sec. Does this company has a $15,297 onboarding cost? Do both companies have that?
The onboarding costs?
Yeah.
I do not recall an onboarding cost with the other. That would be in the conversation once the services would be chosen of what that figure is, but that's something that we can ask that representative. I won't put that individual on the spot tonight, but that individual will have the opportunity that he can provide that information.
Sorry, Josh.
No, you're fine. Good question. I'll make the motion, we table it.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Josh, Shane, 5-0.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Said Mike was sick. Next item on the agenda is SB1. This is from Innovative Performance Technologies on Hansel Parkway, the old Mount Olive. They are investing once again in our community. Thank you very much. They have been a great partner for our community. They will be purchasing personal property of $529,000 with our matrix. They do qualify for a 5-year abatement, tax abatement on the real property. I need a motion from the council to move forward with granting this, and that will be with a declaratory resolution, probably at our next meeting, and then a confirmatory following.
Motion to move forward with.
Motion been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Great, Josh. 5-0. Next item on the agenda is the ARPA fund. Shane, I believe that was you.
Yeah, I asked this to be put on the agenda, and first, before I start, if we were to move forward with this, any members of the council that are currently employed by or on boards of, and it's more than one of us, of local nonprofits in our community would be recusing themselves of any sort of award. But several years ago, I think it's been at least 2, we received about $2.5 million in ARPA money. And since then, we've moved that money to the general fund. In addition to that, we received another $300,000 from the state in COVID relief. In addition to that, we've received opioid settlement money. I think the Meyer settlement was like $259,000 roughly. And I think that part of the reason for this money was for the community, and there's a lot of issues in communities all across the country, and ours isn't any different. And we have a town full of wonderful nonprofits that know how to stretch dollars and serve our people right here. That's families, children, seniors, veterans, the drug addicted, all kinds of people who have needs. And I've been wanting to get some of this money to those nonprofits who do their job much better than we do ours. Now, we just gave an abatement, which we give all the time to our corporations. Why can't we give a little bit of money to those who need it most? So I drafted this grant proposal. It may not be perfect, but it's a start, and I'd just like to read it. It's not very long. The town of Mooresville recognizes that public-private partnerships are valuable and an efficient way of distributing ARPA funds back to our citizenry. The private sector deals more efficiently in providing solutions to the needs of those in our community and can stretch the dollars they receive. We have a once-in-a-lifetime chance. This would be a one-time thing because we got ARPA once, to return a portion of funding to those who need it most. That's people in our community. The funding was designed to help people, but has been sitting in town accounts not doing anything for our citizens for years now. Organizations who specialize in solving addiction issues, providing mental health solutions, providing workforce child care at reasonable costs, support better health and healthy lifestyles, provide meaningful support to seniors, serve our veterans, and fill the gap for vulnerable populations deserve support from local government, especially when these particular funds came to us outside of normal taxing mechanisms. In other words, it didn't come out of our local tax rate. The needs are greater than ever. Our nonprofit organizations are best poised to provide actual solutions. So my proposal would be a maximum of $500,000 would come out of ARPA, so out of that $2.2 million, and that would be made available for the grant. The grant proposals themselves by applicants would be at minimum of $10,000 and a maximum per applicant of $50,000. Applicants must be a 501c3 or other similar nonprofit designation. Applicants must be in good standing with the Secretary of State, and they must provide their recent Form 990, which is their tax filings. Applicants must be headquartered or have a facility physically operating in the 46158 zip code. Funds may be used for programming, employee salaries, operating expenses, capital improvement projects, per a matrix scoring, which is here. And I'd like to add that I think it would make sense to make those funds usable for qualified grant matches so that there may be potential to stretch those dollars even further outside of our government. Funds must be used by the applicant November 1 of 2024. Just as a side note, these funds do have to be used at some point. A one-page report signed by the executive director summarizing grant use should be provided to the clerk's office within 6 months of funds use. One application per organization only. Grant opportunity to be advertised on the town website, Facebook, hung on town hall door, and noticed in the local paper, which we now have a local paper again. Lance, Gideon, thank you. Proceeds of the award paid by check. Applications, packets must be submitted. If we were to move forward by Friday, December 8th at noon in the clerk's office to be distributed to the town council and awarded at the December 19th, 2023 council meeting. Applicants will submit a one-page letter of need describing their overarching organizational purpose and scope of specific grant requests for the capital project, employee salaries, operating expense, or programming need, along with the dollar amount requested based on the matrix score, and a statement making the case for the matrix score submitted. Again, their copy of their IRS determination letter, Secretary of State business entity filing, and the 990. And additional documents could be submitted by organizations if the organization believes it helps make a case for support. Lastly, I lay out the matrix. This is all just my proposal. Application approval will be town council discretion based on organizational quality, need, contents of the application packet, and using the following scoring system or matrix. So, organizations that provide mental health support or addiction recovery or prevention services get 10 points. Organizations provide child care get 10 points. Organization that supports economically vulnerable populations, including elderly, families, children, get 10 points. Organization supports seniors, they get 10 points. Organization provides transportation to its served clientele, it gets 10 points. Organization serves veterans or active military, it gets 10 points. Organization provides health care or provides healthy lifestyle programming, that gets 10 points. Organization provides support for other vulnerable populations such as the infirm, hospice care, or people with disabilities, they get 10 points. If any capital improvement, which includes vehicle purchases, addition to buildings, new builds, or capital repairs are involved in the request, you get additional 10 points. And then the scoring matrix would be 10 to 30 points would be eligible for up to a $10,000 award. 40 to 50 points would be eligible for up to a $20,000 award. And over 50 points would be eligible for up to a $50,000 award. I also included in the packet for the council, Hendricks County Community Foundation has done this. They've listed, they worked with the Hendricks County Commissioners to do this, and they've listed here a number of entities that they've awarded money to in conjunction with the Hendricks County Community Foundation. And I've seen other governments doing this. I checked with Paige at Baker Tilly, who said it was okay. Our financial advisor said this is a allowable use of the funds. I spoke to Mel Daniel just a moment ago. He said it was an allowable use of funds. And then you have a support letter from Melanie DePoy, who's the former development director at the Jackson Center. So one option would be to do it ourselves, and one option would be to partner with the Community Foundation of Morgan County to help us. Of course, there'd be a fee with that, and there'd have to be some talks. They have said that they're open to talking about it, at least, to lay out a framework, and it would take board approvals from both boards. So there's two options there. So that's my proposal.
Shane, did the Hendricks County Community Foundation do it on a matrix system also?
I briefly presented this to our community foundation. She liked the matrix system. I have not reviewed what Hendricks County did. We could look at what they did and see, you know. It's another approach. There'd be fees associated with that, but it would take the reporting and the application process off the town, you know. This is my proposal. I was trying to make it a broad brush for our nonprofits, various ones, to get money back into services right into the community. And it's only a portion of the ARPA funds. I think at a couple of meetings ago, they gave us a brief estimate, you know, on the heating and cooling of 750. So we would still have, even if you doubled that, we would still have plenty of ARPA monies for the heating and cooling. So.
Is Morgan County doing anything?
I have not heard whether they are. The last time, I talked with the Community Foundation, she said she had not heard that Morgan County has moved forward. A lot of communities have, though. Our county's kind of sitting, I think.
What did you say the second option was?
Well, the first option would be that you, and Mel, you can jump in if I say something wrong, but the town would sort of administer the process, the applications would come to us, the reporting would come to us, which is fairly simple. I wanted to make it where it wasn't such a burden that nobody applied, because that's usually the case with this kind of thing. But I also wanted to do enough due diligence that we could qualify the organizations. And so that's one where the town kind of manages the process. You get 100% of the fund, you know. If you get 500,000 out of 500,000. The other process would be to have a community foundation or some other entity help you with it, like what happened in Hendricks County. Is that
Costs associated with that.
we haven't gotten there because I just wanted to see if there was an appetite to do some good in the community. That's what I wanted to do. We've had some organizations come and present to us, Churches of Mission. We've heard from the senior members of the senior center. So I thought, well, that's just what I wanted to do.
I think we got a lot of homework to do. Who did you speak to? Can you speak to the community foundation to find out fees or what percentage or anything?
Yeah, I think if I did that, I'd like some authorization from the council to go to them and talk about what they think of this. You know, she's read this, but I could get more information from her on this, you know, and
I'd like to know if we would move forward in that direction, what the administrative costs would be.
Of course, yeah. I think if I went to her, though, I think she's going to want to talk about, you know, what does the application look like? Is it electronic, which I'm assuming it would be, because that's kind of the way their system works there. You know, I'd want to be able to talk to her about a broad base of stuff. So I don't want to waste my time, though. So if I have the council's blessing to do that, then I'll be happy to do that, more than happy to do that. And I'm sure she'd be happy to sit down with any of you as well. One advantage to using them, it would take all the accusations out of it. You know, the council could still, you know, recommend their choices to the community foundation, but the community foundation board would be the ultimate. They'd have to approve it. But it would put
In our community.
What's that?
Agree to keep it in our community.
I think so. I mean, I think it's our community's money. So she didn't say that would be any problem. Of course, we could have her come and present, you know, once we iron some of that out with her, you know. Because you could look at both options at that point and have all the details laid out. This was just me trying to propose something tonight. You know.
Okay, well, I am gonna call Hendricks County, see what their matrix is, because it may be exactly the same. That would be perfect. And then we'll just go from there, table to our next meeting. And if you would get that information for our next meeting.
Okay, I'll be happy to do that.
I've got one thing, Tom, if we're going to talk about this for a few, and I'm sure this isn't all set in stone, but money-wise, $500,000. If we're talking about that, we voted down twice our employees for a bonus, and that's what a lot of these communities use this money for. So I would like to look at maybe doing $300,000 and take another $200 and distribute it to our employees who deserve it. We told them we would talk about it at the end of the year. Here we are. So that's just my thought on it. You know, I mean, when we voted it down, the other members wanted to bring it back up at the end of the year to see what we look like financially. Think we're okay now? Think everybody's comfortable? So I would like to take some of that. I think everybody still wins. Our churches of mission, our senior center, our employees, who has been on hold for 2 years. I think we owe them something as well. So that's just my opinion. We can look at it, and I think when we come up with the final draft, and kudos to Shane for coming up with this, you know, it's, I think it's a great idea. So that's all I've got.
Yeah, but you're not for the 500,000. I'm kidding you.
I'm for the
No, I appreciate the support.
I would just like to say,
These numbers aren't set in stone, but I think we need to look at everybody.
I'm just kidding you, Jeff.
No, Ryan.
I appreciate
I
it.
would just like to add what Jeff's saying. I mean, it's a good point. We gotta take care of our employees. We said that we'd look at it at the end of the year, financially, and this is a way to give back to the community. So, I mean, but I feel like like Jeff said, 300,000, you know, here, 200 here. Good way to split it up.
Motion to table? Yep. Motion been made, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, let's bring all of it back together. Motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye. I'll talk to him about both figures, 300 and 500. It won't change the process, I don't think.
Well, I'm sure it's probably just a percentage or something.
Yeah.
And I'm just throwing numbers out there. It doesn't have to be.
I was
just
messing
that.
with you, Jeff.
No, it's phenomenal. It's an excellent idea.
Well, department head reports.
Department heads.
Okay.
Did you have something else?
No, go ahead.
I didn't know. Okay. I've been working with the clerk treasurer's staff, which is Debbie Moments, Tammy Van Hook, to enhance the capabilities of the town's video audio system in the meeting room. And I'm pleased to inform you tonight about the progress we've made. We have received 2 quotes that align with our vision for all-inclusive system. The improved functionality and efficiencies will play a significant role in fostering a more transparent experience for the taxpayers we serve and online viewers. During the November 21st meeting, presentations from both vendors will be present for your consideration. So here I am, I'm asking for money tonight. So we all know that we've got a piecemeal recording equipment here, and what we want to have it all as one, where if I wouldn't show up for whatever reason and we didn't have a backup, someone could come over here and look at a terminal and say, that says town council. All you have to do is hit town council and everything would come on automatically.
Oh, yeah.
Nice equipment, and we're pretty excited about it, so I hope we get your support.
So is it equipment too? It's equipment and software?
Yes. If you want to look at one of the towns that we went to, because we did some thorough checking in on this. We went out to City of Greenfield.
Oh.
And we talked to their IT department. We talked to the clerk treasurer. And we looked at what we have in here today, because right now we have Circle City Audio had all the speakers and the mixer. Well, another company's bought them out, so I got in touch with that company, and they're going to be able to give us a quote to put everything together as far as we won't have to use broadband. It'll automatically push out to YouTube. So it's going to be a really nice enhancement for us.
Does it include speakers out there? I get a lot of things that they can't hear in the back.
We looked at that, Debbie, didn't we? And we kind of said right now we weren't wanting any additional speakers, but we did talk about that room there. But we was going to have that just more detailed once they come out and look at it. Because once it's approved, the speakers aren't that much, I wouldn't think, but that would include new mics.
Could I make a request that you add speakers as an option, at least for the council to look at?
Sure.
Because I get a lot of complaints towards the back that people can't hear, and these things are movable, so they're at all different distances from us, and so I think it's a great idea.
I think let's do it.
Thank you.
You got the air on 30 degrees.
That's it.
Mhm.
It's 30 degrees in here.
I was informed by our street department that our community crossings matching grant did get approved. Once again, something good to look forward to. The only thing is our minutes do not reflect for this one here that I can be a signature on that, and I would need a motion for the record to allow me to sign off on all of the community crossings matching grant. We've done it in the past. Have this on this particular one.
I'll make a motion to make Tom the signatory on the community crossings grant.
Motion been made. Do I have a second? Second. Motion made and seconded. Who was that? Jeff. Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Shane, Jeff, 5-0. Legal counsel.
I have nothing tonight, thank you.
Public comments. We had Christy Corona. Someone signed? From Monrovia?
She doesn't need to talk now. She's saying no.
Okay.
Sorry.
When you said that,
I seen you shaking your head.
when you said that, I thought, wow. She does not need to talk now.
Very brave.
Sorry.
All right. Quick thing on IT, because that's one of the reasons I came tonight, because I was available, but I understand a lot of what they were talking about in the process, because I spend $275,000 a month on IT between all our properties. I know it's convoluted, it's confusing. There's been some people up here that have asked me questions that I tried to break it down into IT for dummies. Kind of understand the questions you're asking, Jeff. And then kind of going along like what you said with bonuses, Shane, with ARPA funds. IT is so vitally important. If you guys aren't doing two-factor authentication, if you're not doing phishing test emails, your police department is wide open, this town hall is wide open, and there's a lot of liability there. So if you're looking at ways to spend money, he said it perfectly. I mean, if you're going to go cheap, you're going to get cheap. No digs about anybody, but if you ask me to give you a proposal, I could say, I'll charge you $10,000 a month, knowing that it's going to be $30,000 a month, but to get your business, I'll charge you $10,000 a month, and I'm going to nickel and dime you for every single thing that you want done outside of our limited scope of support. So when you look at this, it blows my mind when I go through and I look at new servers, because am I going to add a physical server? Am I going to do a virtual server? Am I going to partition servers? Am I going to go to cloud? What's my redundancy? What's my backup? You get into some big money, but you're talking safety, police, fire. There's a lot there. So I just want to say from an IT perspective and experience, don't let the price scare you. Definitely specifics, because I got confused there with, and I know Phil and Buckner aren't IT professionals, but I got kind of confused listening to it, so I can understand where you would get confused on it when it comes to pricing. But yeah, seats, all that stuff, that's one area. As a taxpayer, don't go cheap, please. I mean, if there's extra money, we should invest in IT and support what the actual town employees need. And you've said it before, Jeff, you hire the department heads to run the department, they're telling you what they need. So is there money somewhere? Surely we can come up with it. I remember the conversation about bonuses. Employees should get a bonus. They got a raise. But if we're going to use taxpayer money to give to nonprofits, we've got our own employees that could use money as well. I've got a 501c3, but I'm not going to apply, but I'd rather see, and I've told a few people up here, why don't we have a grant process? Instead of having people come up piecemeal throughout the year, why don't you just set aside, we have this much money, apply for it, and we'll reward it to who can do the best good for the town. So I agree with you on that, Shane. So write that down, Lance. Rob Samuels agreed with Shane on something.
Well, that's very kind of you.
But definitely, I'd say on the IT, that is vitally important. And as a taxpayer, I'd like to see my money go there. I'd like to see money go toward our employees because they're all valuable. And then congratulations to Kirk Witt because he won. So he'll be up here next year. And then any questions anybody has on IT, just like basic, hey, explain this to me, I'm always available. And I try to make it easily understandable for everybody. So hopefully I was under 3 minutes. Have a great night.
Thank you. Anyone else? Motion for approval of payment of claims?
I forgot about this part. Okay, motion to approve pay of claims in the amount of $1,008,459.15.
Motion been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve payroll clearing in the amount of $219,626.35.
Motion been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Greg, Josh, 5-0 on both. Town council comments.
Let's have one on the IT stuff. I agree. It is top priority with IT in today's world, you know, and to touch on some of the stuff that we've been talking about here in the past that some won't disclose, but I will. We've got part-time employees that have a problem with an internet problem. So what's their solution? We go up to Meijer and buy a router and some cable and come down here and bypass half the stuff we got. Now we got a virus. And you know whose fault we blame it on? We blame it on our IT guy. And it's us. It's our problem, not his, but we badmouth him for it. We get people who can't log into emails, can't remember a simple password. They blame him. He goes and, well, tell them to enter the right password and they'll get in, you know? So that's our problems. The majority of our problems are user, you know? He's doing the best we can do, and if you don't believe me, go into our server room. It's like a bomb went off in there. We've tried to get it fixed. You can't even stand there because you can't breathe. It's too hot. So we've neglected our IT area, and that's on us, not our provider. That's all I've got.
Shane?
Couple things real quickly. In speaking to Virginia Perry, I discovered that her husband, who served on the council and died while in office, did not receive any sort of recognition from the town. You know, we usually give out a little plaque and I don't know if anybody knows of Joe Bikeman, who had a similar situation where he passed away. I don't know if his family got anything, but I'd like to see
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, I'd like to see us give something to both widows in that case, if it didn't happen. I didn't realize that was a while ago, but I think we should remedy that for both of those, if Joe's family didn't get some sort of little recognition. May not be a lot, but I think it's the right thing to do. Also, I thought we had tabled Victorian Christmas. They requested $5,000 to today's meeting. Did that get changed? You remember that from 2 meetings ago?
I know that Jewel had reached out to her and assisted, and I don't know that she called or was planning on being back on the agenda or attending the meeting to make that request.
I was under the impression she was gonna come back and notify us where she was.
Yeah.
How much she's
Okay.
received.
Okay. All right, I thought we had officially tabled that so it would be on this agenda.
We asked her to come back and tell us.
Okay, so,
How she was doing with her
okay.
raising.
Okay, well, all right. Good enough, thank you.
Josh?
And then,
Greg?
Nice to see so many representatives from our worthy causes in town here at the meeting tonight. Thank you.
Our next meeting date will be Tuesday, November 21st. You guys want to do it at 6:30, this whole spring forward, fall backward thing? You guys all right with that? Okay.
6:30.
I need a motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor? Aye. Josh Shane, 5-0.
Nice meeting you this evening.